What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are First. Welcome in to another edition of the NFL Weekly. It is already our final regular season edition of the 2025 NFL season. Week 18 is upon us. It is time to figure out the final bit of seeding, maybe clean up some less than stellar divisions and figure out where these conferences, where they're going through. But with me to help break it all down is my friend and co-host, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am doing well, and to you and to everybody else, by the time you get this out there online, Happy New Year's, Happy 2026. It's got to be better than 2025. I can just feel it already. So I hope everybody had a good holiday week with Christmas, and I hope everybody is having a safe and happy New Year's Eve, and hopefully a very successful and happy New Year coming up.
Amen. Yes, as Raider Jim alluded to, our recording, we just got about, less than 8 hours here on the West Coast of 2025 as we are recording here December 31st. Getting ready for the ball to drop. I won't speak for Raider Jim, but for myself out here on the West Coast. Someone find me a live feed of the New York ball drop, because that's as close as I'm getting to midnight on a school night, if you will. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the ball drop or anything like that. It is time to kind of dive into the situation of the playoffs. Obviously, I'm just going to vamp here real quick as I pull that up real quick. Nothing is really decided. There are some situations, especially in terms of the 7 seed for the NFC. The Green Bay Packers are your 7 seed. So they are not going to be able to move up, down, out. So they are locked in. They will be heading to either Chicago or Philadelphia, as that will also need to be decided. And then, of course, the 1 seed, very big 1 seed, because it's not just you drop from 1 to a 2, you drop from a 1 to a 5. That will be the game we'll be talking about, the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, that is not only for the number 1 seed, but also, of course, the NFC West. And then, as I somewhat alluded to, a kind of win and you're in the NFC South. I'll get to in a little more detail when we talk about that game, but we always talk about it every year. Do we have to invite every division winner to the dance? Yeah, we do, but we always kind of scratch our heads and ask the same question every year. Anyways, moving to the AFC side of things. I do believe so we can see some movement in the AFC. Obviously, the Jaguars and Texans still have the AFC South up for grabs. The Patriots, I believe, still have a outside shot at the 1 seed, although the AFC East and the AFC West are both wrapped up. The Chargers could possibly move to the 5. But they are sounding like they are going to rest Justin Herbert and possibly others. So that's interesting. We'll have that in a bit. But and then finally, just similar to the NFC, the AFC, we do have some cleanup to do in the AFC North. Someone's got to win it. The Pittsburgh Steelers or the Baltimore Ravens. That is a true win and you're in. You win and you win the division type game. That will be your Sunday Night Football, which we'll get to soon. Obviously, like I said, outside of just 2 division opponents or 2 division races, we're figuring out right now essentially where these teams are going to play, not who is going to play. Raider Jim, your thoughts as we get ready to kind of get this all into concrete.
Well, I'll tell you that Baltimore and Pittsburgh situation, if I'm going to put my playoff chances on the shoulders of Aaron Rodgers or Derrick Henry at this stage of the game, give me Derrick Henry with 1 leg, because he is really, really starting to ramp it up. And I think he's going to have one heck of a final game here. Going to be very interesting to see, and they're playing at home. And then on the NFC side of the ball, as much as I like to watch my old man there, who I can't remember his name now, Baker Mayfield. As much as I appreciate Mayfield and what he can do for football and what he has done with the football, I got to say, I give the nod to Carolina right now in that game on Sunday, and I think I'm not going to be surprised at all. What I am surprised at is, even though the game is going to be played at Tampa Bay, that they are actually the 2.5-point favorite at home. The way they've been playing, I don't think I could give them that edge.
Yeah, I believe I saw something. The Buccaneers have won one game since Halloween. It's pretty incredible that we're talking about them week 18. And they have, I mean, again, they're listed as a 24% chance because, again, Carolina, there is a world Carolina loses but still wins the division. That would then come down to Atlanta beating the Red Hot Saints, by the way. But anyways, that's kind of a weird one. And sometimes it's just easier to kind of just say, look, let's pretend that this is a win and you're in type of game, even though it technically isn't. Very, very interesting going forward because even looking at the playoff odds, Tampa Bay, currently 24%, even with a win, only 42%. So again, keep that in mind. A lot of eyes will be going on Sunday, as of course that Carolina-Tampa Bay game is on Saturday. We'll get to both of those, that game and the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game, in our game previews. But before we dive into that, let's take a look back at week 17, which was absolutely phenomenal. A really strong week. I think, the Christmas Day games, you could make all the jokes in the world about the quarterbacks that were playing, but you know what? We had some good football. At the end of the day, was it what we expected when the schedule came out? No, but it wasn't terrible. Saturday was a lot of fun, and Sunday, my goodness, if you did not enjoy Sunday night football with the San Francisco Chicago Bears, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's some paint drying somewhere that you might get a kick out of, but that game was absolutely incredible. Just a fantastic week 17. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, 70 points on that Bears 49ers game. Who'd have thought? I didn't think they would get that many points, but what a game. You're absolutely right. And how about Monday Night Football? There was nothing to sneeze at there either. And quite honestly, if I'm the Rams, I'm a little bit concerned by the way they played. They kind of almost took a step back in the playoffs with that performance. And they just seemed really befuddled by Atlanta. And there were mistakes and there were things went wrong. But at the same time, wow, they're playing indoors. I understand Falcon, the Dirty Birds have a hostile environment, if you will. But my goodness, that one was a surprise. Shedeur Sanders, I don't like him. I don't like the Browns. I don't hate the Browns. But I think if you roll back the tape from last week, I said, why can't they do it? If they had just had such a good game the week before, why can't they be that competitive against the Steelers? And by gosh, they went out there and took care of business too. Shut out the Steelers 3 quarters out of 4. And that's another reason I say, give me Derrick Henry all day long against the Steelers, because I think he's just going to have quite a game. Who else did I see here? Oh, I really thought Tennessee was going to make me look like I know what I'm talking about with another win with 2 wins in a row, but they ended up didn't have the offense in the second half, but they played a pretty darn good game. And you said it yourself, the Saints are riding high right now. So go get them, coach. You guys aren't dead yet. But watch the Seahawks. That team is looking like the guys that you need to beat if you're going to win the NFC. Can't wait to see what they do this weekend. If the Bears and the Niners had the game they did, I can't wait to see what happens with the Seahawks and the 49ers.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible. And now the one thing I will say this weekend, looking at the weather reports, the only game that really has anything to kind of jump out to you is actually that Seattle-San Francisco game. Might be some colder temps, but nothing in terms of precipitation, snowfall, too major outside of that. And then even San Francisco, it's a 60-degree rain. So more ball security rather than anything else. And it's not it's not candlesticks. So you're not dealing with crazy San Francisco wins off of the Bay either. So, but my thing, it really all was kind of about the quarterbacks. And, we'll kind of tie a bow on it with essentially, if you were to redraft right now, this past draft, and maybe not redraft in terms of who's the best player, but in terms of the best quarterbacks, I think you have to make the case that Tyler Shough is either at the top or darn close to it. He has been very good since he's been handed the starting reins over Spencer Rattler. And the best part of what I've seen out of him is he's constantly gotten better and better and better. And that's what you're looking for from a rookie. Yes, it would be fantastic if he goes out and lights the world on fire like CJ Stroud did a few years back. I get it. But when you're a franchise like the Saints, where you have a lot of pieces that you need to fill in, when you can look and see a quarterback and that quarterback position that seems to be stable, it gives you a lot more confidence to be able to go out, spend money elsewhere, spend draft capital elsewhere, and bring in the players that can allow this team to compete. And let's face it, going forward, I think you have to make a pretty darn good case. The New Orleans Saints have maybe the best future in that division. Because look, it's not a world-beating division, and I don't see anything changing, with all due respect to Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, and Bryce Young. And then on the other side of the quarterback coin, it does seem like we've seen Phillip Rivers riding off into the sunset one last time. Look, I wanted it to happen so badly. Last week I said I thought they were going to be able to pull it off. I thought Phillip Rivers was going to get get a win in one of his starts. He got close against Seattle, not terribly close against San Francisco, but played by far his best game in that one. And then this one, look, let's face it. As great as the story was, that there were some situations where you go, oh yeah, 44. He threw a pick early on that you could just, again, I'm not here to pile on, but I think even Phillip would say, look, I have to be better if I'm going to be playing NFL quarterback. He just didn't have the zip, but he's 44 years old. Again, a month ago this time, he was getting ready for next season for high school football. And we're now kind of talking about him after a fantastic 3-game run. And again, if you don't like Phillip Rivers, it's probably because maybe you lost to him, or maybe you just think he talks too much or whatever. That's fine. But you can't dislike him because of what he does and how he performs on the football field. Maybe a little too animated for some people. I get it. But in terms of a football player and somebody that you want to point to and say, hey, do what he does, to make it very, very simple. Follow him. Follow his lead. It was a lot of fun these past few weeks watching Phillip play, but hopefully he can kind of ride off into the sunset. And then again, I think Gunnar Rivers, I did verify he's still in high school. I assume a senior. So I'm sure we'll be seeing him at the college level, and who knows, maybe at the NFL level. That would be pretty cool. And maybe we'll see Phillip in the coaching ranks at the NFL as well. That would be pretty cool. Although I think Phillip is better attributed to the high school ranks. I think he can make a bigger difference with those young men rather than the NFL players. But he'll do well in whatever he does. So just wanted to shout out Phillip. But a great week 17 overall. And, it's a little reminder that normally would have been the end of our season. But with this extra game, we do get one extra weekend of football. Obviously, this is the third or fourth, maybe fifth year that we've done this. Normally, we will do 8 game previews in depth. But let's be honest, folks, there are a good amount of games that just plain don't matter in terms of the playoff seeding or anything like that. We are going to talk about our own teams, but we aren't going to talk. Look, we're not talking Dallas Giants in depth, at least. We're not talking, Denver Los Angeles Chargers. That's pretty much already locked up. If the Chargers don't seem to care about that game, we're certainly not going to care about that game. So six games to really sink our teeth into, and then we'll have some thoughts on the others if necessary towards the end. So moving on to that side of things, as I mentioned, we are going to start with our respective teams, and I would like to congratulate Raider Jim on almost getting there. I don't think it's clinched fully yet, but in the pole position for the number 1 overall pick. A performance for the ages. And I know there are a lot of Raider fans that might be saying that was a terrible performance. I thought it was masterful. Look, if you're tanking, go full tank. Send your star defensive end home. Tell everyone he's hurt. And then he posts stuff on Instagram, jumping on trampoline, saying hello. Hey, all's fair in love and war and Raider football. But I only kid for the most part. But, this is the final time we will be talking Raider football this year. It is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs heading to Vegas to face the Raiders as 5.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 36.5, minus 270 on the money line for Kansas City, plus 220 for the Raiders. Raider Jim, your thoughts? Raiders' final game of the season, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I understand the whole philosophy to let's get the first pick next year. It doesn't really matter based on the way they're managed and coached. You got to, unless you're going to be able to draft a coach, guess what? You're going to probably be still rebuilding for the next 3 years at best. And everybody's talking about, well, but you guys can get Mendoza. And it's no. I like what you said last week. Paul Harbaugh and say, we'll take the 28-year-old Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. I would just as soon see him. Guy that's got thousands of yards passing, thousands of yards rushing, guy that has a head for NFL football. Don't bring in somebody that is really basically going to be sitting with the clipboard for a year, possibly, or you're just going to send him out there and feed him to the Lions his first year in the NFL. It's just, I don't know. I don't really completely buy into the philosophy of number 1, but I'm not the management of the Raiders. But so abysmal are the Raiders that at home, the last game of the season, the Chiefs are bringing in a third-string quarterback and are going to go into Allegiant Stadium 5.5-point favorites. That is just ridiculous. And what are the Raiders playing for? You already said it. They're playing for the overall number 1 draft pick next year. And let's not forget, he needs 112 yards.
Hey, come on now.
He needs 112 yards to get to 1,000. He will not get the 112 yards. I don't even know if he'll play the whole game. The Raiders, what is possible, though, is the Raiders covering, because I think this is just going to be a terrible game to watch on both sides. I think the Chiefs, they have no firecrackers left. They're not going to have any sparks. The Raiders have no sparks. So give me the Raiders plus 6 on this one, and the over-under 36.5. Give me a point on that. Make it under 37.5. And I think it's going to, it couldn't be over soon enough for me.
Yeah. The more I've been thinking about it with the Lamar Jackson saga and all that, I think it's a good idea, and it would be great for the Raiders overall. I don't think financially it would be great, though. That's a big contract for somebody. I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago. Lamar is getting to that age where he's going to have to maybe figure out a way to be a little more cerebral in the pocket. Those legs are going to start wearing down. So I have a different way for you to go. And this may be a little bit off the beaten path, but I think this might be a little more feasible. I'd love to hear your thoughts on possibly, and I don't know his contract situation, so whether they have to trade for him or have to go out and sign him, obviously 2 different situations, but just your thoughts overall. Malik Willis to the Raiders.
Oh my gosh, I would be ecstatic. I think that kid is the second coming. You don't miss anything with him under center. He's got the smarts. He can read the field very, very well. And for all, what I have seen of him, he makes very smart plays. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I would love to see him wearing silver and black.
Yeah, because I feel like Tennessee might have. Tennessee I think gave up on him maybe a little early. It is what it is. They're the ones who are in there and they see it. And Matt LaFleur is an offensive coach. I think it was Mike Vrabel there in Tennessee that he's a defensive guy, so maybe that continuity wasn't there. But I don't know. Anyways, just kind of looking around, and again, I don't know if Malik Willis is a free agent because again, I do think. And you want to kind of avoid, I always remember the Matt Flynn, where Matt Flynn, I think, came in the final 2 games of the season, tore it up, and then got like a 50 or a 4-year, $50 million contract before Russell Wilson ended up taking his contract as a 3rd round pick. But anyways, in terms of this game, you kind of mentioned it, Raider Jim. Both of these teams, I think, have essentially given up. I just think Kansas City, even with a 3rd-string quarterback, a hobbled tight end, a not great defense, and a head coach in Andy Reid, who's in some very uncharted territory of coaching a meaningless football game.
Right.
I just think they're better. Again, it's kind of a race to the bottom when it comes to these type of games. And with all due respect, nobody beats the Raiders in a race to the bottom, unfortunately, this year. 5.5 is a lot on the road for Kansas City, but I'm going to lay it here. I don't know. I'm going back to the Raiders-Eagles game, and maybe because it was just right in front of my face and it was just so it was almost uncomfortable to watch. That stuck with me. Not a good football team, unfortunately, for my friend Raider Jim, but I do think greener or brighter times are ahead, but they are going to wear one more right here. -5.5. I'm going to lay it with Kansas City. I'm also going to go under 36.5. Again, where are the points coming from on Vegas's side? And you can kind of throw Kansas City into that as well. Obviously, Denver's defense, much better than Vegas's defense, but Vegas's defense is average to below average, which makes it the strength of this team. So again, I just think we can stay under 36.5. I could see this being a 17. Well, no, that wouldn't work. We'll call this a 17-10 win for Kansas City, at least on my end. But again, 2 teams that, and who knows, we do have, of course, the subplot. I know Raider Jim will be on the edge of his seat all weekend trying to figure out if Travis Kelce will be retiring or not, but we'll have more on that next week. But moving on to my neck of the woods in a game that somewhat matters, although some of the news that came out today might lead you to believe it doesn't matter. But anyways, it is the Washington Commanders heading to Philadelphia to face my Eagles. The Eagles are going to be 7-point favorites. The over-under sitting at 41.5. Your money line has Washington plus 270 and Philadelphia minus 340. I'm going to put a big asterisk on this because I should have said this beforehand. This line has moved dramatically. I put this together yesterday. I believe this line is down to -4 now. As the news that the Eagles are going to be resting majority of their starters. Despite having an outside shot at the 2 seed, they would need some help. Myself personally, I expected them to at least play a half and kind of keep an eye and see, who knows, if Detroit hops up to a, 10, 14 point lead, maybe you ride it out and you try and go for the kill. Or vice versa. If the Bears go up 10 points early on, you kind of throw up the white flag and say, hey, let's see what we got. So again, week 18, I've always said week 1, week 2, some of the hardest weeks to truly gamble in the NFL because you don't really know. These type of games are very similar for the same exact reason. I don't know how much these teams want to win the game, more so rather than get out healthy, at least for the Eagles side of things. I think the Commanders would like to get the win, but mainly for posterity's sake. again, I think a lot of it's going to come down to what the Bears do if you don't believe the reports. But if you do believe the reports, I still like the Eagles to cover. Or no, I'm sorry, Washington to cover this. Tanner McKee is great in the preseason. Struggled a bit regular season when they've asked him to come in. Now the 4, as long as it stays above or at 4 or above, I'm okay there with holding on with Washington. But I do think the Eagles do win this game. Jake Elliott looked just fine last week, so not a whole lot of cause for concern, although we'll still kind of have that pit in our stomach. I don't know. I do wonder if that will also affect the scoring. I don't have the number in front of me. I only checked the spread. Raider Jim, I don't know if you have the over-under, if it's moved from 41.5.
I still have 41.5.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to go under that one as well. The Eagles offense is offensive to watch. It's so frustrating. It feels like a bad prank. As good as the Eagles defense is, the offense is just as bad. And the frustrating part is they'll have moments where they'll have drives where they look absolutely unbeatable. And then they'll come out and they'll look like a high school team could run them into the ground. But with that being said, that defense is very good, very physical, gets another win, keeps things going. But again, we're staring down a 3 seed more than likely and only 1 home game guaranteed. Very unfortunate. But in this one, I do like Washington as long as we stay above 4, say at or above 4 and under 41.5. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the best way that I've seen, or best thing I've seen written about this game by one of the reporters was Washington's been waiting to go home for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that might already be their mindset. I mean, who knows? Have they already gone in and cleaned out their lockers at the stadium? And once they get done on win or lose on Sunday, it's like, hey, shake hands and I'm going back to California. I'm going to Hawaii and my wife wants me home for dinner. So that might be very well what the Eagles are going to be facing. And I think it is going to be what happens. I don't like the way the Eagle offense has been playing. You have said that yourself. But yeah, I mean, inclement was an understatement in that Buffalo game, but still to get shut out like they did the second half of that was, wow, that was close. And then the defense is playing real good ball. And I think the defense is going to shut down Washington. No problem. I think they're going to bring enough game to go ahead. Give me -3.5 for the Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles to cover on this one. 7, I wouldn't have, but 3.5. Yeah, I think they can do that. I see them winning by 6. And then the over-under, I'm with you. This one's going to be under at 41.5. I just don't see points being scored.
Yeah, I'm very, and look, I know Washington has a bad offense, and the Eagles, maybe with the exception, and I'm sorry, but with the exception of the Raider game, the best offensively. I know. I like, as I'm formulating the sentence, I'm just like, shoot. Yeah, it's like, gosh,
you just can't avoid it.
Anyway, so maybe their best offensive performance fully in a game was against Washington just a couple weeks back. But even that had some moments, if you will. And yeah, I just think this number is way too high, even with a bad defense in Washington. 41.5 almost seems like a trap. But anyways, moving on to the NFC North saga. Obviously, the Detroit Lions, they are eliminated. Very surprising there. We are going into the last week of the season, and the defending number 1 seed from last year in the NFC will not be partaking in the playoffs. They are heading to Chicago to face the Bears, who have clinched the NFC North, and with a win here today, will clinch the number 2 seed and guarantee themselves at least 2 home games, of course, assuming they win the first. But with that being said, the Bears are going to be 2-point favorites at home. And the over-under is 50.5. Detroit is plus 120 on the money line, and Chicago is minus 140. Raider Jim, your thoughts, Detroit at Chicago.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, another head scratcher. You expected at the beginning of the year, I expected to see the Lions in the playoffs. I expected to see the Chiefs in the playoffs. I did not expect the Steelers to be hanging around this long and maybe end up in the playoffs. So again, proving one thing as a fact, I don't know what I'm talking about. So keep that in mind as you listen to the podcast. Anyway, the Detroit Lions, you said it, they're playing for nothing. The Chicago Bears, 2 seed, and that is big. I'm kind of surprised that they are only a 2.5 point favorite at home or 2 point favorite at home for this one, but that's okay with me. I'm going to take the Bears money line on this one, and that is because both sides of the Lions, offense and defense, the linemen are beat up. These guys are being held together with a lot of gauze and tape and knee braces and things like that. They have non-starters that are going to be playing. And also the Lions secondary is also banged up at this point. So the Bears should have a fairly easy time offensively. We know the Bear defense is going to possibly force some turnovers. And with that said, I just see the Bears. Give me the money line, because at 2 points, I'm not going to go 2 points on that, but give me the Bears on the money line. Over under 50.5. I'm going to go under because I don't think Detroit's going to be scoring very much at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on the Chicago side of things. I think they do cover. I think they win this probably by a field goal or more. Obviously, the Lions want to spoil as much as possible for their old friend Ben Johnson, and again, all it would really do would drop them down to a 3 seed. Wouldn't be devastating, although they would obviously prefer that 2 seed. At the same time, though, you do wonder, if you're a Bears fan, would you maybe prefer to play the Rams rather than the Packers? I don't know. Again, just things, the way the Rams are playing right now versus the way the Packers have played the Bears, because the Packers aren't playing very well either, but that won't really be an issue. I think you have to go out to win or to play to get the highest seed always, no matter what.
Agree.
Chicago does get the job done. My concern with Chicago is now I think it was the first play of the game on Sunday night. You had a pick six or a fumble. I don't know how it was scored, but anyways, defensive turnover, pick six, strip six, whatever you want to call it. And that's what Chicago has done. They didn't get a single turnover the rest of the game, and they could not stop the Niners. I think that's the key for the Bears. They have to get multiple turnovers, or else they have to score 55 points. And
right.
Their offense is good. I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with that. Now, with that being said, Detroit, a good offense, but this is a team I think that's just, they're ready to kind of get rolling. They're ready to turn the page on this season. This is a team that I think, look, Jahmyr Gibbs isn't going anywhere. Jared Goff's not going anywhere. Amon-Ra St. Brown's not going anywhere. Aiden Hutchinson's not going anywhere. This is a team that's built to compete going forward. I think they just kind of want to get through this season, get on to next year, kind of focus on, righting the ship, if you will. And who knows, maybe kind of going back under the radar as they were kind of before, a year or two ago, before everyone kind of, said, uh-oh, here come the Lions. So give me the Bears minus 2.5. I think they get the job done over a Lions team that just wants to be done with the season. And then I think we go over 50.5. I think we're going to see some points being scored. Caleb Williams, very, very good quarterback. He's starting to figure it out. I think Ben Johnson has helped him come a tremendous way. The wide receiver room is very, very good. Luther Burden, obviously, I don't know his status after going down on the last play of the game. But I really like Chicago. They have impressed me. Their defense, however, they're going to need to force turnovers, or they're going to need to somehow find a way to, channel their inner 1985 Bears and figure it out. Although I think turnovers are going to be your better option in that one. But I think a very good game. Hopefully Detroit will, show up ready to play. Now we dive into the 3 games where you won't have to question the motives, or at least the wants of these teams, as these are all pretty much not win and you're in situations, but win and you are in a much better position than the team you beat. How about that? The Carolina Panthers are heading to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is your first of 2 Saturday games. Both of the next 2 games I will be talking about are on Saturday, are in chronological order. Tampa Bay is going to be 2.5-point favorites at home, with the over-under sitting at 44. Carolina plus 120 on the money line, while Tampa is minus 140. Raider Jim, the NFC South is kind of up for grabs. Again, the Buccaneers can still win, but not make the playoffs. But let's just pretend this is all for all the marbles. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Now, first thing you got to consider is it's supposed to be showers possibly in Tampa Bay. So that's going to make hanging on to the ball tricky. If you go back a week or so ago, it was the 21st of December, right before Christmas, these 2 teams played, and they put up 43 points in that game. Carolina walked away with the victory by 3 points, 23-20. And I have a feeling it's going to be the same result this time. You kind of touched on it before we started talking about the games. Since October 26th, Tampa Bay's record is 1 win, 7 losses. And that speaks to the performance that you're going to see on Sunday, because how they're hanging around is beyond me, because they have just tanked terribly. And Carolina, they haven't been world beaters, but they've been inconsistent. But when they put it together, they're putting together pretty good games. I think you're going to see the same output that you saw on the 21st of December. I like Carolina in this one. Give me +3 on that, and I'll take Carolina. The over-under 44, give me under on that as well, because with the rain and just given the productivity of the 2 teams, we're not going to see anything over that.
Yeah, I see it the same way, at least on the spread as well. And I'll be just completely honest. My notes right here, it says, who wins the South? Who cares? 2 mediocre teams. Give me the points and move on. That's kind of the way I look at it. Carolina, flip a coin. They could look like arguably one of, the way we looked at the Lions a few years back, like an up-and-coming team. And then they could look like the worst team in this division overall, and really everything in between. And you can probably say that about Tampa. Maybe not so much on the good side of it. It's been a while since we've really been impressed with Tampa. I probably got to go back to September if we're being honest, and I couldn't even remember. I mean, I just know when the Eagles played them, they were hot. But that was like week 3. So again, long time ago. I don't know. I think Carolina, my only concern is it does seem that whenever the bright lights are on them, and this isn't technically a primetime game, but this is a standalone game. All eyes are going to be on this game on Saturday. It'll be the only game on at the time. Carolina seems to kind of turn into pumpkins when that happens. It would be my only concern. But again, you have a team like Tampa Bay who have been pumpkins for the past, 2 months? I mean, going back to the pumpkin holiday. So give me Carolina +3. I am going to take the over, though. I don't know. I just think that we could see maybe something goofy. Who knows? Maybe even see a pick 6 or a special teams touchdown. I think 2 pretty mediocre defenses. And, the weather, 2 southeastern teams, I feel like they probably play in the rain enough. They should be okay holding on to that pigskin. We'll see, though. But I do like the over 44. Once again, that is your first Saturday game. I unfortunately don't have the time in front of me, but you're all big boys and girls. You can figure it out, but that game will be on Saturday. Moving on to the second Saturday game, and this one a little more, or definitely more cut and dry when it comes to seeding and the division side of it. This is the NFC West championship game. and the NFC regular season championship game, if you want to go that far. The winner of this will be the 1 seed and have home field advantage throughout the playoffs in the NFC. It is going to be the Seattle Seahawks going on the road to face the San Francisco 49ers. And the Seahawks are going to be 1.5-point favorites on the road. The over-under is 49.5, minus 115 for Seattle on the money line, minus 105 for San Francisco. Essentially a pick 'em, but still giving Seattle the nod. Raider Jim, your thoughts, the NFC West Championship.
Yeah, this is one of those games I just have to start by saying buckle up, man, because it's going to be good. Now, when these guys met back at the very first game of the regular season this year, it ended up being a low-scoring game, 17-13, and not a lot of points whatsoever. Now, what's going to happen this time? Let's see. Let me look at my notes here. So what's going to happen this time? The big difference is offensively, they can just stand in the middle of the ring and throw punches, and one's going to meet the other. They're just going to match each other, stand there toe-to-toe. Great game that way. The difference is going to be Seattle's got one of the top 10 defenses in football, and that's going to be what brings them over the finish line. It's going give me Seattle on the money line because I think they will just be able to have enough defense to stifle San Francisco. I don't know if George Kittle is feeling 100% or not. McCaffrey is definitely playing like McCaffrey, and it's nice to see him out there at this juncture, not on the sidelines, not on the questionable list or anything like that. Purdy's playing good ball, but again, that Niners defense is what bothers me when you're going up against Seattle. So again, give me Seattle on the money line. And as far as the over-under 49.5, I'll take over because I think we are going to see points.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the money line, but on the other side of this, I like San Francisco here. I've been very, very impressed really all season with San Francisco. They really haven't changed too much in terms of the type of team they are when they went from Mac Jones to Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy is playing very, very well. And you take out that first play, or at least the first pass, or that turnover on Sunday Night Football, he was essentially perfect after that. I've been very impressed with the Niners kind of taking all of their lumps. I mean, there've been a lot of drama around the Niners this year. Even, the Brandon Ayuk stuff, whether it's, essentially just MIA. He's AWOL, and they have essentially voided his contract. That's a whole other thing. But they've weathered the storm, and when it's all said and done, the dust is cleared, and they're staring at a home game for the division and the conference, or at least to be the 1 seed in the conference. I don't think Kyle Shanahan lets this one go. And I think at the end of the day, the Niners are overall a better football team. The defense definitely is a cause for concern. They got to get after the quarterback. It's incredible how inept this team is at getting after the quarterback. And it's okay, fine. You lose one of the Bosas. I get it. But it shouldn't be this crazy. I don't know. It's a head scratcher, but I think when the chips are on the table, I think sometimes maybe it's a little too simplistic to say quarterback versus quarterback. But Sam Darnold, there's still a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth with Sam Darnold. I want to see him play a complete game against a good football team. Even last week against Carolina, the first half was just okay. And then, the first half against the Rams the week before, he was terrible. Even really in the second half, the third quarter, he wasn't very good either. So I would not be terribly surprised to see Seattle go and get the job done. But if you're telling me San Francisco's the home team with everything to play for and they're giving points, I'm sorry. I'm going to take San Francisco. I am going to take the under, though. I do think weather could be an issue here. Again, not necessarily, the East Coast sleet, stuff like that, but something to keep an eye on. Again, Sam Darnold may be a little turnover prone. We'll see if that comes into it. But I do like San Francisco on the money line and the under 49.5. Finally, our final game, not only of the podcast, but this will be the final game of the NFL regular season, barring any weird situations that happen this weekend. This is your Sunday night football. And this is a very cut and dry win, and you're in begrudgingly, but it is the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be 3.5 point favorites in this one, and your over-under is 41. Baltimore is minus 185 on the money line, and Pittsburgh is plus 160. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, and I'm going to say it again. You come down to this game, last game of the season. Who's going to upset who? Can Baltimore claw their way into the playoffs? And that's what it will be. But Derrick Henry, there's the difference in the game, and I think that's going to be it. Possible snow, making it even better because passing game may not be there for both teams. So they may have to rely on the ground attack. And the way I've seen the Baltimore offensive line pushing people around to give him places to run, I take Baltimore all day long on this one. I'm not going to buy a half a point or a point or anything. I like them covering at 3.5. And I think Pittsburgh they're going to be wrapped up on Sunday. And here's my question to you before you give your pick on this one. If Pittsburgh is sitting on the sidelines come Sunday night, Mike Tomlin's future.
I think you got to let him go. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. Anything short of a conference championship appearance, I think they got to let him go. I mean, and it's more of like, hey, hell of a run, but we got to try something new. You got to try something new. You got to, like, again, I don't think it's we got to fire this guy because there's necessarily somebody better or this guy's bad, which I guess that's what it means. But I don't know. I just think sometimes you just need to change the scenery. You just need a new face in the building. And I do think the Steelers do take it as a badge of honor. What is it? 3 coaches in the last 60 years. I mean, it's incredible. I'm not even going to, I don't like the Steelers, never have, never will. But I do think they maybe take that a little too seriously. But yeah, I mean, again, outside of the Pittsburgh Steelers catching uber fire and making it to an AFC championship game, I think he's on the chopping block. I'll be honest. I see a theory or a world where in the next 2 weeks, both of these coaches are fired. I can see a world where the Pittsburgh Steelers win on Sunday, and then John Harbaugh is fired. And then the next week, I would assume it would be the Chargers beating Pittsburgh. And that's just the way this scenario goes. I'm not making any picks, but and then the Steelers firing Mike Tomlin. And again, at least on the Tomlin side of things, I just think they just got to go separate ways. Like, hey, that was a lot of fun.
Good run.
But yeah, you got to win like Belichick style championships to be sticking around for 20 years in the NFL. Like again, and John Harbaugh is getting pretty darn close himself. But both of those guys do have championships. But yeah, it's getting a little low or getting a little tight there. I think for both of them. Very interesting. But in this one myself, obviously, I think the big question of whether or not, I mean, I don't even think we care anymore. Or we don't even need to see an injury report from the Baltimore Ravens. Just assume Lamar Jackson's questionable. Right. I swear, I would say 75% of the time we do these podcasts or we talk about the Baltimore Ravens in a game preview like this, the first question is Lamar playing? So I don't know. I would have to imagine that if Vegas is making the Ravens 3.5 point favorites on the road, I would have to imagine they expect him to play. I'm going to expect him to play. With that being said, I'm going to kind of go the same way that I did with Carolina and Tampa Bay. 2 mediocre teams take the points and run. And this one just so happens to help that it is the home team. I will say, even for all the struggles of the Steelers the past, I mean, it seems like they're on and then off, on and then off. Now they would be set to be on this week. I think Aaron Rodgers is playing pretty darn well. He's been good enough to keep them obviously there. He's been a big beneficiary of a bad division, but I really do like what Aaron Rodgers has been able to put together. And dare I say, we might be in store for another year of Aaron Rodgers. And of course, don't worry. Well, it'll get spread out. It'll get drawn out all summer. So no news is coming anytime soon. But I like Pittsburgh here, plus 3.5. Again, maybe they still lose by a field goal, but I think they cover. And I do like the over 41 here. Baltimore's defense has gotten a little bit better. Pittsburgh's defense, uncharacteristically, not very good. Sunday Night Football. I mean, this is the playoff start for these two teams. This is a wild card game, however you want to slice it, or it is a divisional matchup or divisional championship. Give me Pittsburgh plus 3.5. Give me the over. And yeah, you know what? I'll call it. I'm going to say it. John Harbaugh, and then Mike this week, and then Mike Tomlin next week. I think the NFC North gets a huge shakeup. Zach Taylor, you might be done too, but that's for another day. Kevin Stefanski, we might get rid of everybody in the NFC or AFC North. Now that I think about it, everybody might need to go.
How about Tomlin to the Raiders?
Sorry?
Tomlin to the Raiders.
Oh, I would love that. If there's one team that would love Mike Tomlin, I think it would be the Raiders, and I think he would fit very well there, but I think there would be a lot of hurt feelings in that locker room, which is probably not a bad thing. But anyways,
right.
Moving on to kind of our other games. Again, majority of these, none of these games have both teams in the playoffs, or at least with anything to play for. Some have one team with a possibility. We're not going to dive too deep into it unless Raider Jim or myself wants to, but going through them, we got the Battle of Ohio, Cleveland at Cincinnati. The Bengals are 7.5 point favorites. Over under is 45. Dallas is 3.5 point favorites as they head to MetLife to face the Giants. 51.5 is your over under there. Green Bay heads to Minnesota. Minnesota is going to be 6.5 point favorites in this one. 36.5 is your over under. I have to imagine we'll not see Jordan Love in that one. Indy. We'll see Riley Leonard in that one. Good for him. Good to see him back. But yeah, no more Phillip. The Houston Texans, still with an outside shot of winning the division. They are going to be 10-point favorites against the Colts. And we have the Arizona Cardinals. They are going to be 7.5 point underdogs as they head to Los Angeles to face the Rams. Speaking of a coach that's probably going to get some walking papers, Mr. Jonathan Gannon. 46.5 is your over-under in that one. The Chargers are, Chargers, 12.5 point underdogs as they head to Denver to face the Broncos. 37.5 is your over-under. Broncos win. They are your 1 seed. Chargers still could move around, but as I mentioned at the top, it does sound like Justin Herbert and maybe others will be sitting that one out. That's why that spread is 12.5. Miami at New England, 10.5 is the spread there for New England for obvious reasons. The New England still does have a shot at the number 1 seed, but they will need Denver to lose. And the over-under in that one is 45.5. And finally, the Jets. Yep, the Jets are still playing football, folks. They are 7-point dogs as they head to the only true New York team. Just a reminder, the only true New York team, the Buffalo Bills, who are 7-point favorites, and your over-under is 38. I do apologize to the Tennessee Titan and Jacksonville Jaguar fans. I don't know. I'm sorry. It didn't make the list. As I was going through it, as I said, the Houston game, my eyes kind of did the up and down looking for the Jacksonville game and went, uh-oh. But I'm sure you all will forgive me. I'm sure Jacksonville is favored. That's what I'll say. Anyways, Raider Jim, any thoughts on those games?
Boy, not really, but I will tell you 3 of those games are 3 of my best bets for this week because I don't care where they're sitting right now. The Bills minus 6.5 against the Jets because the Jets are just terrible. That sounds like a good bet to me, as does Dallas -3, even though they're on the road and going to go into play the Giants. I like that -3. And no disrespect to Denver, but I think that spread's too big, even against a Charger team that's going to hold back some of their guys. So give me the Chargers +13 on that one. And I think those are three pretty good best bets. I did want to touch base on the Dolphins and the Patriot game, not because of the score, not because of anything, but because are they having any locker room issues in New England with the news about Stephon Diggs? Because this is not a good story. Strangulation and suffocation charges. I mean, he apparently right now he is scheduled to be up for arraignment on the 23rd, which would be the weekend before the AFC Championship game if they were to progress and get that far. I just wonder how big of a distraction that's going to be.
You know, lesser people would make a joke like, oh, the Patriots have an MVP quarterback and their star wide receiver is going to jail. I am not that person. What I will say is I do think this is a distraction that is very unwanted. Yep. And I don't know if you saw the news today, Christian Barmore is in similar situations. Again, it was a simple, it was domestic violence, assault. Again, I didn't dive too deep into it. A lot of big words in those affidavits that scare me away. So yeah, I do think there is something there. I will say, if there is one coach that will be able to kind of grab a hold of everyone and just kind of pull on the reins and just kind of reset everyone and kind of say, hey, look, focus. Like, we can't let this get in the way of it. Because again, if everything on both of these is true, then both of these guys should not be playing football. But for the Patriots, until they hear otherwise, they're going to go with these guys. It is what it is. I think Mike Vrabel is the right guy to be in charge of that team, but this makes his job a hell of a lot tougher. It's very unfortunate, again, because we do it here all the time. We kind of get on Shedeur Sanders or Aaron Rodgers or even AJ Brown or things like that. But at the end of the day, if you're the biggest fault of you, and again, these are all alleged, but Stephon Diggs does have a bit of a history. You unfortunately can go back and look that up. We're not going to rehash it here, but he does have a history. It's, if your biggest problem is maybe you're a little too cocky or you post scripted things on Instagram, it'll frustrate me. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not nearly as bad as when we're starting to talk about arraignments. We're starting to talk about charges. Not good. And I think for the Patriots, that locker room needs to tighten up. And I think they all know that. And again, I don't think this is some, grand scheme or grand, what's the word I'm looking? Conspiracy against them or anything like that. No,
not at all.
But the timing is, even you want to throw in, and this is not nearly as serious, but Trayvon Diggs was released by the Cowboys the same day. Just a really tough day for that family.
And picked up by the Packers.
Yeah, and he did. He did get picked up by the Packers, which is, anyways. But again, two very different situations. Yeah. But it's very unfortunate. But it's a reminder that, again, these guys are athletes. They're not heroes. They're probably some of the furthest ones from them. But going down this list, I didn't really have a whole lot to add on here. Although I really did want to go with the Rams -7.5 on my best bet, just because of how bad Arizona is. But that hooker, or not hooker, excuse me, that hook really got me. It scared me away. I feel like Vegas knows. They know, like, yeah, come get it, 7.5. Ooh, look how good this is. It's like, yeah, I know a trap when I see it, so I'm not going there. But I do think, not all of them. I'm not going to fully ride with you on the Denver, just because I'm not a Trey Lance believer. But and I also do believe Sean Payton is a very vindictive man, and I think he does want to run it up against the Chargers because they beat them. But we are in agreement on those your best bets. Dallas -3 and Buffalo -6.5. I know you bought half a points there, which are great. I wouldn't even need to, and that's saying something for someone who is a habitual buyer of a half a point, especially when you're talking about a 3.5 and a 7-point spread. I like them both there. I also like Buffalo, New York, the Jets. That game to go over 38. I can see Buffalo dropping 34 by themselves. And, the Jets doing something there. And then I have two plays from the San Francisco game. I think the under 49.5 is a good bet. And again, I just really like the home underdog with Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy with the division and the conference 1 seed on the line. I like San Francisco money line on that one. Raider Jim, your final thoughts as we wrap up 2025, we wrap up the 2025 NFL season, and we wrap up this episode.
Who'd have thought? It's already here. I mean, as you said earlier, and now we're down to inside 7 hours before we call in the new year. And again, by the time anybody watches this, it will be 2026. Once again, Happy New Year to everybody. I hope everybody is having a good, safe holiday season. To you, my friend, I can only thank you again from the bottom of my heart for letting me be part of the podcasts, basketball, horse racing, football. I look forward to it each and every week, and I am just very proud to be part of what you put together. Thank you so much, my friend.
Amen. And trust me, it's not a whole lot of people believe it, and I don't know if you'll believe it either, but if you weren't a part of this might not be going on. I don't know if I could be a solo act. So I have just as much thanks for you as you do for me. And as you kind of mentioned, it's 2025 has come and it is gone. It's been a little tough year for both of us. Obviously, to our horse racing fans out there, I'll send out another apology. Obviously, this summer got away from us. We're not going to get into it here. If you knew, you'd be able to be like, oh, okay, understood. But we are going to be back next year, obviously. Probably in the next few weeks, we'll start getting ready with the basketball side of things as we start staring down March Madness. Obviously, we're going to get you all the way through to the playoffs and then enjoy that summer months of the ponies. But yeah, as you mentioned, by the time this podcast will go out, it will be 2026. So hopefully, we will always continue to tell you that, you behave responsibly, especially when it comes to drinking alcohol and being out in public. Do not drink and drive. And that's not necessarily just a holiday message or a New Year's message. It should be a message every day. Yes, every day. And very, very important for us all to keep that in mind. But with that being said, thank you all so much for being here, not just in this episode, but with us this entire year. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the NFL Weekly presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It's time for y'all to go wash your hands. Take care and have a happy and safe new year.
Happy 2026.